Hi, I'm Katherine Bourguignon from the Terra Foundation for American Art. I'm standing in front of Guy Rose's Giverny Hillside from about 1890, 1891. This is a quiet, restful landscape in the Terra collection, a fairly small painting, nothing much happening. In fact, you have to look at it really closely to even understand what it is. And if you do start to look, you see these patchwork of colors on the hillside, which are actually planted fields. In the distance, we can see a few stone houses, and then the light, perhaps it's sunset, and there's a kind of purple light that's very typical for the artist painting in Giverny to use. And we know that Guy Rose first came to the village in 1890. He was born and died in California, and he's better known for his work after 1900, when he was doing California Impressionism, which is bright, really bright colors, thick brushstrokes with California scenes, Pacific Ocean. But this is before that, and he's come to Giverny very early with some of these other American and other foreign artists to work in the same village that Claude Monet lives in. Guy Rose maybe doesn't ever really meet Claude Monet, and we can see in this painting that he's not trying to do Impressionism, he's not trying to imitate or learn from Monet, and instead he's just looking carefully around him. He's influenced from more sort of Barbizon or naturalism school of thinking, which is that these artists did paint outdoors. The small size, it's painted on wood. We can see that he's probably taken this directly outside to paint. And he's interested in capturing the effects of sun. So there's a hint of what will become for him Impressionism, but you can see that his brushstrokes are much more controlled. The colors are not so separately painted or blended. In this work, what we're looking at really is one of the hillsides behind the village. In those days, this very small French village, the center part below the hill would have been the communal fields of grain. The famous haystacks that Monet would paint would be right in the middle of this village. But up on the hill were the fields planted with other kinds of crops, vegetables, for the people, individual families. And we can just take a hint of that with this patchwork of color. And if you look very carefully, you can also see tiny trees, probably apples. Normandy is known for its apple cider and Calvados, an apple liqueur. And these tiny apple trees in this painting seem almost to be stitching together the different colored patchworks. It's a very soft, subtle, quiet work. In the Terra collection, we have numerous paintings painted in Giverny by these artists who came to the small Norman village to work during Claude Monet's lifetime. Some of them got to meet the artist, some of them didn't, some of them were working simply amongst themselves. And the Americans were just part of what became an international community. I was able to work on this colony for an exhibition many years ago, and this painting struck me as being a little bit different than the others, a little more soft and quiet, something mysterious perhaps, and it's in the unusual viewpoint. We are immediately confronted with this sort of empty hillside. It's in this sort of soft purple light that's in the back hill, perhaps sunset or sunrise, something that's happening here. And I was especially intrigued by the fact that most paintings done in Giverny at this time, you can see the same exact hues of color, that they're all trying to maybe use a certain color. And in fact, it's just a year or two after this painting is produced that another American artist, Philip Leslie Hale, calls it the Giverny trick and talks about how when these artists are in Giverny, they find a shortcut to produce some of the light effects from the village. This painting is, as I say, very soft, quiet. You have to really look at it carefully. There's an unusual viewpoint. There's no figures present. And it almost, by bringing that hillside so close up to the picture plane, it's as if he's also trying to experiment with what it is to make a painting, that no longer do you have to have a far distance and careful perspective. Instead, you can really be playing with some of the colors right on the surface, and that we know will lead much later into abstraction, but he's not quite there yet. He's just still thinking about things. And so Guy Rose comes to the village in 1890 and 1891. He leaves again. Perhaps he's not interested in this, what has become a very busy artist colony with many, many artists working every summer. And he comes back in 1904 with his wife. In the meantime, he's suffered from lead poisoning, which he got from using white oil paint. It had lead in it, and he got lead poisoning, couldn't paint for a number of years, resorted to illustration. And when he comes back to the village in 1904, he and his wife live there for many years. They build a house, and his art begins to take on a much more bright, impressionist look than this early work. So his early paintings from Giverny are very rare, and this is the only one by him in the Terra Foundation collection.